Hello, hello, it's Michelle Nicole, and looks like we had a little disconnection just there. So, tonight we are talking about event sponsorship. If you've been following us along the past couple of weeks, we jump on Tuesday to talk about how to use events to leverage your business. And today we are talking about how to use event sponsorship, how to attract the right sponsors for your event, and how can you set your event that's a little different than all the other sponsorship opportunities than they're used to seeing, right? So how can you set your event differently? Okay, so I'm Michelle Nicole. If you're just jumping on, let us know where you're coming from. If you're currently using events, we would love to hear a little bit more about your events, and if you're using event sponsorship. And the reason why we wanted to talk about this topic is it is a heavy topic because a lot of events, to get up and going, we do want to have that support. And we are so excited to get our event off the ground. We think it is the greatest event that we want to impact our audience, that we want to put our event sponsors in front of our audience. And how can we do that effectively, right? So what we put together tonight is a couple of ways to put yourself in your event that's going to attract these sponsors differently than the other events. And I say this because these event sponsors are used to being pitched to. They are used to getting so many opportunities to sponsor events. And why is it so hard to find them and to attract them for your event? So let us know if this is an area that you are looking to obtain sponsorship for your events. Is it a struggle of yours? This is actually a common question that we get in the Masterminds and Events group. If you are not yet a part of that, we will drop that link as well. So I'm Michelle Nicole. I help people use events to leverage their businesses. Event sponsorship is a very heavy topic, and that's why we're here tonight. Okay, so a couple things that I want to point out. Event sponsors, they don't identify themselves as event sponsors, right? And so when we are looking for event sponsors and we are putting out there in our marketing, in our messaging, asking for event sponsors, they're not necessarily connecting right away, right? What event sponsors are looking to do is to use your event as a platform to connect with a mutual audience as yours. So who are those people, right? When they go to work every day and when they approach, when they're on LinkedIn, they're not identifying themselves as an event sponsor. Typically, these job titles are going to be decision makers, whether or not they're going to use an event to get in front of their shared mutual audience as you. So that is a big point that I like to point out, because when we are looking for event sponsors and our sponsorship deck is addressing event sponsors, there's a lot of times this disconnect. So I first like to approach that to say, well, who are these people? Who are the decision makers of using events as a platform? Typically, these are going to be people such as sales directors, marketing directors. They're going to be people that are making that decision. How are we going to impact our audience? And secondly, does that audience match yours, that you can provide the event as the connection, as a way to get them in front of that audience? If that answer is yes, how can we then attract them? So I like to start with that point, because if we are looking to attract event sponsors, yet they don't necessarily walk into the office or think of their job title as event sponsors, who are we talking to? And that answer, we really want to think back, and depending on your event, who is your audience? Who else can get in front of that audience? And who else wants to be in front of that audience? And who is that decision maker that you're actually getting in front of if an event is going to be a platform rather than, let's say, Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube. Those are all platforms. And what your event is doing is giving that decision maker, the sponsor, an opportunity to get in front of that audience. Okay? So now that we've been able to identify, and the exercise is to consider who wants to get in front of a mutual audience that your event will attract. And what are the job titles, whether it's a sales manager, a marketing director, whether it is the VP of marketing, it could be a president of a company. Who is the person making that decision if they will invest into the opportunity to using your event as a platform to get them in front of that audience, right? So that's number one. We want to consider who they are. They're not necessarily identifying themselves yet as an event sponsor, and can we then present to them that you now have an event that can connect them with the same audience that you can, because they're the decision maker, that they're going to decide that your event is a platform, just like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever platforms they are already using to get in front and impact their audience. Okay, so that's number one. What we then want to do is consider all the opportunities and list out all the ways that your event can give that decision maker value to connect with their audience. That is typically what we see in a gold, silver, bronze package. That is typically what I see when I first get a sponsorship deck sent to me to review. And that's okay as a starting point. But what I like to advise or tell people is, let's list those out in a menu format first. So once you can recognize who are these people, who are we talking to, now list out all the different ways that your event and that your team can deliver and connect them to your audience, rather than putting it into a cookie cutter format and into a package that you think that they will automatically go for. List them out. Okay? Now that you have identified who you want to reach and the opportunities that you have to bring to the table, you already know your audience. And if not, let Sarah Gretzinger, let myself know. You already know your audience, your ideal audience that you intend to attract to your event. The idea to attract ideal sponsorship is who also wants to get in front of that audience that can invest into supporting your event, because they will also make an impact, right? And so if you can then identify who your ideal audience is, and now you can show that decision maker that you have that audience and that you have an event that can attract that same audience. Now the opportunity is to present to them the menu of items, how you can connect your audience to that decision maker and to their brand. Okay? Now, a lot of people automatically go for things like logo placement, social media, awareness, things like you can be a part of our email blast, or you'll have a listing on our website. That is a good start. Now, if you've followed some of our other videos, you'll see there are 7 different ways that we categorize how to use events to leverage your ROI and how you can actually use events. So I don't want to dive too much into some of those. I can grab those links for some of the other videos. What we are now looking to do is, you know who you're talking to, you know what your event can offer and who you're going to attract. Now what we want to do is, how do we outreach to that decision maker, right? What we want to do is ask them, hey, we have this very specific audience. Is this the audience that you're looking to connect with? We're looking for a yes if we've done our research, if we know what sort of companies also want to attract that audience. We want to have the opportunity to have a meeting with them. That's where Sarah is great at talking with different people how to really get that first appointment. Just to have the opportunity to say, hey, we have the same audience that you're looking to get in front of, and we have a solution, we have a platform, our event, but we would love the opportunity to talk to you. How can we make this work? How can we make this as a partnership? And listen. So the first objective, now that you've done your research of your target audience, you've done the research of who these people are at the same companies that also want to get in front of your target audience and who are those decision makers, the goal is to get that first meeting. And that first meeting is not necessarily to pitch to them what you think they want, but to have that opportunity to get to know them as a decision maker and see if it's a good fit. Listen to them to say, okay, we have this audience, we have a shared audience. Here are some examples. You go back to your menu list and say, how can we make this work? And understanding that they want to use your event as a marketing platform. They are looking to use the event itself as a touch point to connect with their audience, which just so happens to be your audience, right? And if that synergy aligns, that is where we can continue the conversation. Rather than what I see quite often is we have cookie cutter packages that assume that these potential companies want to support an event that they don't know. They don't know you yet. They don't know the audience yet. They don't know if it's a synergy that exists. However, if we can get past that first outreach, because we don't have a pitch, we are not soliciting a company that we don't know yet if it's a good fit. So having that opportunity, having that intro call, having that conversation first to listen to that decision maker, to ask them how do they impact their audience. And can we find the menu items that align with a marketing plan that works with them? So what we're going for here is using events as a way to get in front of the right audience rather than starting with a package, right? That you assume that this decision maker may or may not connect with. To have the conversation, does our audience match with your audience? How can we then have a conversation to put our menu items together that works for their marketing plan? Okay, now that we have that conversation, you're in the door. That is the intention of the first conversation, to get the conversation to continue. The goal is to, yes, of course we want a sponsor, rather than moving forward, assuming that we know what they want when we haven't even talked to them. They don't even know us. They don't know that we actually have a platform that can be a solution for them. Get the conversation first. Okay? All right. So going through our list, what we've done now is identified who we're talking to. We've identified that that company, in fact, has the same audience that we can get them in front of. We then have listed out the different menu items that we can deliver to them, whether it be logo placement, it could be a campaign, it could be introductions to our connections, it could be introductions to our network. What are the different options that you otherwise would put into a typical gold, silver, bronze package? Okay, so that's step number 3, is to actually list it out. Number 4 is your outreach strategy. This is something that Sarah Grenzinger, Savvy Networker, she's amazing at. How can you actually outreach to these prospective prospects? Get that meeting. But in that meeting, we need to now see if our research, our audience, our menu items align with what they're looking for. Okay? If the answer is yes, you now have the permission to continue the conversation, and we can then create what I call an event campaign. That is what we're really looking for. If you have an event and you're looking for money to sponsor the event or the cause, we're actually looking for event donors. We're looking for donations. And what donors are looking for is how their money is going to be used to further a cause. So if you're looking for fundraising, you're looking for a way to ask for money to support the event in itself, you actually really are looking for event donors. And that is a completely different field. You're talking grants, you're talking ways to support the event or the cause itself, and they want to see how their money is going to be broken down to support the event or support the cause itself or the research. When we are looking for sponsors, when we are looking for people that will invest into the event itself, we're really looking for a way to connect with the audience as a marketing touch point. And if we can create our packages as a way that talks to that decision maker, as a solution, as a way to connect with your audience, as a marketing touch point, that is the difference. Having that conversation, having that sponsorship opportunity, your scope of work, your contract, your sponsorship package becomes a solution for their marketing efforts to connect with their audience. I know a few of you are on here. Let me know if this is making sense. What we're looking to do is identify the difference of an event donor, someone that's going to donate for the purpose of the cause, donation for the purpose of supporting the event for the goodwill of the event, versus attracting a decision maker who's going to use your event as a marketing touch point. And I kind of took this training as a reverse engineering, as in I wanted to really start from a big picture. Who are we looking for? How are we going to show them that our audience is going to attract them to their audience? How can we show them that our solutions and our deliverables, as I call them, is going to solve that touch point, and use our event as a way to solve a marketing touch point? An event sponsor is looking for a way to attract and connect with an audience that you two, the host and the sponsor, actually have a mutual audience. And if you as the host can connect them to that audience and show them and deliver that platform, that is going to set you apart from all the other sponsorship decks that are assuming that they know that their event is already the solution. So having that conversation, that's something that I work with my clients. That's something that I work with, how to obtain those sponsorships. I'm going to be doing more videos on this, but at a very high level, wanted to open the door that the cookie cutter packages, they serve a purpose. They are great to show people or decision makers as an opportunity, but to really set yourself apart and to talk to those decision makers how your event can connect them with their audience and how you can listen what's going to work for them, and can we deliver and use that event as a platform. So let me know how this is helping everybody. I'm going to jump off for this evening. My name is Michelle Nicole. I'm going to be touching more about event sponsorships in the marketing and events group. And I will also have this as a checklist, but the main points is how do we attract them, who are we talking to, and can we make that connection that your audience is the same audience as an event sponsor, and how can we approach them differently than the cookie cutter gold, silver, bronze solicited packages that they're being used to. Anyway, I'm going to jump off and hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're here in the US. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you all later. Have a great night.